Hey everybody, how's it going? This is Alan, and I appreciate you joining me. I see there are 3 or 4 or 5 of you here. That's great. What we're going to do is, in a little minute here, I'm going to pick up where we left off with the edit on the Axford interview. Andrew, Taluka, welcome, guys. Last time, I don't know who was here for the first part of the edit, but none of my chat stuff was working, and I didn't realize it. So I just thought there was nobody out there. So if you left me a message, or if anybody left me a message and I wasn't there, then that's why. I was here, but I just wasn't seeing your messages. Anyway, I'm seeing them now. Bruce! Welcome, Bruce. I feel deja vu, like I just was talking to you a minute ago. That's odd. So the goal here is that in the first part we went over a lot of basic setup stuff for doing an edit in Premiere, and at the end of the last session, I was having trouble figuring out where all the pieces of my footage went, and the reason for that I discovered this morning was that one piece of video doesn't exist. A piece of video at the very end of what I had edited when we were together. So there was a discontinuity in the video, but not in the audio. So I had a couple of unique problems to fix, and I fixed them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go cycle back around and show you what I did to fix the transition between the first video and the second video, and show you how that edit went. Somebody asked me the other day if this is what all video edits are like, because there's no question this is a very multi-layered, complex video edit for me. And this isn't at all like most of my videos. I mean, some of them are pretty challenging if they involve a lot of different scenes and a lot of different people and different inputs and everything. But this one is a particular nightmare for one reason, and that is there is no scratch disk. There is no timeline that consists of one input that runs right the way through that you can cue off. You can use as your reference, if you will. Normally, when I do an interview, that is the Zoom feed. The Zoom video and audio, I'll import them first, and everything will be laid on top of that. Now, I will turn that off at the end. I mean, we won't listen to any of the Zoom stuff because it sounds awful and the picture's bad, but it will give me all of my synchronizing cues to put everything else in its place. I don't have that. The Zoom Zoom recording is lost forever. It's not usable. So I'm having to put this conversation together from pieces of a conversation. It's like a jigsaw puzzle, except it's a jigsaw puzzle where the pieces don't actually have shapes. You have to figure out how to put them together, which means there's a lot of cool things that I've been having to do. And I want to show you some of those so that you can have a better feel for how flexible this program is. So we're going to jump into Premiere. I am going to move some stuff around on my screens so that I can actually have a bit more territory to do things like keep up with messages, chat messages. So just bear with me for a second. I think what I might do is put no, I'm going to do just exactly what we're doing. I was thinking I might put my the video edit on the small screen and have everything else on the big screen, but I think it'll be easier to do the edit up top. So, all right, I'm almost ready to begin. Okay, good. So I'm going to switch to the editing screen. So this is where we are, and if it looks a little bit different to you, it's because I changed the colors of the individual tracks so that I could keep track of the pieces, because when they're all green, they all start looking alike. I'm not exactly sure what caused me to pick pink and yellow, but yeah, I just grabbed for those colors. Where you change colors, by the way, is in the if you right click on a clip, it gives you the option of changing the color, and you can change the color of the whole track too. But anyway, this was the intro that we started with at the beginning last time.
Welcome back to part 2 of the Steve Axford interview.
And I have changed this a little bit, as you'll see.
We're talking once again to Stephen Axford and Catherine Machiniak, who talked to me for so long.
What happened was when I was moving stuff around to try to find the connection where the pieces would go together, I ended up doing what I told you not to do, and that was pushed part of my footage on top of other footage, and the result was I lost a whole bunch of my work, and I had to get all that back. And that meant changing some things around. So the intro is slightly different, and the transition into the new video is definitely different. I removed a little bit of what we'd done. But let me tell you what the main problem was. The main problem was I had audio of myself and I had audio of Steve and Catherine. So we were having a conversation, and I had no video for a stretch of about 5 minutes. So what I had to do was come up with a way to have appropriate visuals that were making the points that Steve or Catherine were making, that didn't in any way contradict or get in the way of the video, preferably that also showed Steve and Catherine, basically so that it would hide the fact that I didn't have any video without anybody being aware of that fact. So the problem started, well, let me see, yeah, right here. Let me shrink that down. See this gray gap right here? This is where my video stops right here and starts again. No, it doesn't start again until here. And Steve and Catherine's video was missing from here to here. And there were quite a few points in here that I did not want to sacrifice to, if, you know, the first thing you'd think was just cut all this out. But I didn't want to because they were saying some cool stuff. So do I, I'm going to answer a couple of questions before I go on. Do I edit with headphones on? And when not doing a live show, yes, I do. I don't always use headphones, but if for complicated ones, I do. Yeah, if sound is ever super critical, I do, but not ever when I'm doing a live thing. Evening all, David, Maine, north of Portland. Good to have you here. Right, having fun with macro, what's up? And Borderland Peppers, hey! It's good to have you. I didn't realize any of you guys were interested in video. This is kind of like the grunt work, the heavy lifting that goes on behind the scenes. And it is heavy lifting. It can be an intense job. So let me show you what I did with this video. This was what I had, was just the audio, and I'm going to play some of that. I'm turning the video off so you can start from what I started with. It was this conversation.
Oh yeah.
You don't want to damage or spoil things for other people, but if you got a mushroom on a stick, yes.
So Steve's talking about about one topic, and then
fungus. So this grows in
we jump
symbiosis with the roots of the tree. So you can't.
we jumped to another issue related to me saying I wanted to pull up the mushrooms so I could photograph them better. So that whole first part is about the one set of mushrooms. Then we changed topics.
To me, and I'd photograph them, and my photographs would become part of the collection.
And they're collecting those mushrooms.
Now they're telling a story about how sometimes when they're out in the field, the scientists will pull up mushrooms to collect them for their studies and bring them mushrooms to shoot. How in the world am I going to find some kind of fitting visual for that? Then the subject changes again.
Forest. This is a great place, like a stump or.
They're talking about being in the rainforest and looking for ways to physically, because I asked the question, isn't it physically demanding to do this to do this work all day long in a hot forest? And they were talking about the things they do to get more comfortable and to not be exhausted.
With a nice dark background. You certainly.
Then Steve goes on to start talking about his photographic technique in the field. This is all in the course of a 4-minute stretch. We're jumping around to different topics, but they're all interesting and they flow together. Then
Those field trips, we don't have much control. Like when we're on a field trip that's for 2 weeks in Yunnan or Nepal or something like that, you don't have much control. But that's when umbrellas we use.
they're talking about the fact that when they're out on the road, they have to work with whatever weather gives them, whether it be sun or light or rain or whatever. So all of this, I had to listen to it a few times, and there's one or two more things that they talk about.
And I saw you doing all manner of things to get your camera down to the ground.
Me asking a question that was about the mechanics of positioning for shots.
Not tired while I'm doing it. I tend to get very focused on the motion.
Yeah, this was the...
Passion for this photography came out about passion for nature.
And then it wrapped up with a conversation about how often they shoot, how often they're out in the field working or in the jungle working. And that led to them telling me about their home and their back garden. So I had 5 minutes of, is it 5 minutes? It's from 4:16 in the video to almost 7 minutes. So it's 3 minutes of no visuals. What I did was I used some slides, some images, some of which I'd used before, but I showed them in a different way, and I'll show you what I mean. And I had some video clips that I haven't yet shown that will be shown in the second half, but there were ways I've edited them so that they aren't going to look the same, and I'll show you what I mean. So let me turn all of these video tracks back on, and we'll go back to the beginning and
Or is that just a no-no?
and go through what I did.
No, in the conservation.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry, this was when I was making a smart aleck remark about pulling up mushrooms to photograph them, and I was asking if there was a rule against that, and Catherine was telling me no, it's just not conservation minded. So that's the point at which the video disappeared.
You don't want to damage the spoiled things for other people, but if you got a mushroom on a stick, yes.
Well, I'm glad that we're going back through this, because there are two things immediately apparent from that. Is I didn't clean up this edit. This is a video clip, and what I have done
You don't
is
want to damage the spoiled.
slowed it down, but I also haven't changed the size of the... Oh, it is maxed out. Okay, so this is a video clip that normally would run at 100%, and it's showing mushroom after mushroom after mushroom, because in the video that's what it needed to do, but I've slowed it way down so the mushrooms stay up much
You don't
longer.
want to damage the spoiled things for other people, but if you got a mushroom on a stick, yes.
Yeah, you can move it and then you can put it back. A little
Move
bit
it.
like the fishing, you know, you throw it back after.
Well, I would.
Okay, I'm going to go back and fix that right now while we're here, because that sequence is terrible. I think I may have had it longer and compressed it a bit. I'm going to speed that up to about 50%. Now this is a cool tool. I right click on a video clip and it allows me to select a speed as a percentage of the original clip. So a 50% edit will double the length and half the speed of a video clip. And there are other things that you can do when a video clip is within a sequence of other video clips. I would click this box, the ripple edit, which would collapse everything in with it so that there wouldn't be a gap left. When a video clip is sitting out in the air like this, it doesn't matter whether or not it ripple edits. I can just leave that unchecked. So I'm going to uncheck that, and that will make it considerably smaller, but it will also get those mushrooms back in that were cut off at the beginning and the end. So let me look at the clip again.
You don't want to damage or spoil things for other people, but if you got a mushroom on a stick, yes.
Yeah, you can move it and then you can put it back. A little
Move
bit
it.
like the fishing, you know, you throw it back after.
Okay, so that is a little bit better in that we now have three mushrooms. The first one is not up long enough, and I may actually change that too. This came from a video clip on the internet, but it's one of Catherine and Steve's video clips. So I borrowed it for this purpose. I'm going to stretch it out so that I get this other mushroom, a longer period with this mushroom up. And then I am going to shrink the speed of the whole thing by going to speed and duration after right clicking. It's at 50%. I'm going to take it back to about 45%. That will... no. That was not what I meant to do. 55%, I think, will probably be it. So speed and duration, 55. There, that's about right. That's what I was looking for, so it'll fill that space. All right, so let's look at it again. Only let's do something to the transitions, because it's too jarring the way the screen is suddenly there and then suddenly gone. So I'm going to add a ramp up and then add a ramp down at the end. This is that basically fade to black. If there's nothing else in the timeline there, it is going to just fade to black, and it'll fade up out of black. So let's see what that looks like.
You don't want to damage or spoil things.
I
for
still
other
don't
people,
like that, but
if you got a mushroom on a stick, yes.
Yeah, you can move it and then you can put it back. A little
Move
bit
it.
like the fishing, you know, you throw it back after.
I picked that segment because it was the only segment I could find, by the way, that had two pictures of mushrooms on sticks. That was the reason I chose that. Now, we still had some footage of me.
Back if I moved it. I don't want anybody to think I'd have thrown it away or eaten it.
But this is a mycorrhizal fungus, so this grows in.
Okay, so normally when I'm doing an interview, I don't have me on screen for more than a couple of seconds at a time just to ask a question. But because I don't have any other video, and people need to be populated in here somewhere so that it looks like we're still there. So there's more of me than I would normally like. But this is one of their photographs, and I've already shown it. But to make it look more dynamic, as she's talking about a better, more photogenic version of this mushroom, I change the impact of it by getting closer in, and that's the reason that I did this move here.
The tree. So you can't, if you move it, then you're breaking that connection.
And it doesn't, generally speaking, it doesn't.
Now I just look interested.
I've taken photographs, I've taken many photographs of mushrooms where people have carefully picked.
Now we're picking up where we left off with that first video clip of the mushroom on a stick.
And replanted it, like in China when we were working with psychologists, they'd often be out.
That was an edit down here where Steve says that he was working with mycologists. In the original soundtrack, he stumbled over that word a couple of times, and then Catherine said it, mycologist, correctly, and then he said it correctly, and it didn't sound. If it had been me saying it, I would have felt uncomfortable about that being in the video. So I had to take it out and patch it together, but he was laughing at his mispronunciation from before, which is why that doesn't fit really well, and I need to think about that. I may remove that clause from the sentence. I don't know, but that's why it sounds a bit funny.
China when we were working with psychologists, they'd often be out in the field and they'd bring the mushrooms back to me and I'd photograph.
So again, I'm just showing a series of
And they're collecting
stills from their video.
mushrooms, so they're going to pick them anyway. But rather than expecting Steve to climb up and down cliffs where they're finding,
Well, they expected that too.
where these young people are finding these mushrooms, they'll often he'll set up like a studio in the forest.
So she changes the subject now to setting up a studio in the forest, and this is probably the best use of the footage that I had. I went back through all of the material that I had until I found these pictures, which I used to kind of flavor this conversation.
This is a great place, like a stump, or, when we say studio, we
somewhere-
just mean a stump.
Yeah, somewhere where I don't have to lie on the ground, I can actually, be in a relatively comfortable position, say, this sort of height. So if there happens to be a stump you can put.
This business of taking a picture that might well have fit, but stretching the picture out by having this slow pullback from his camera lens to reveal the scene. And oh, look, he's sitting at a stump, just like that he's talking about in the video, like this was planned this way. That's the key here, is to use up as much of the time that I don't have video as possible, and that's why this scene just goes on and on.
Or a fork of a tree or something like that,
That's shaded.
with a nice dark background. You certainly don't want any sunshine spots in the background.
Then back to the clips of mushrooms.
Yeah.
The best time to be in a rainforest is actually when it's raining. The second best time just after the rain.
But when we're on those field trips, we don't have much control over it.
You can hear in the background, by the way, the other thing that makes this a uniquely difficult edit for me is that when we're talking, there is a delay of about 2 seconds, and that is simply because they are in Australia and I'm here. So I will say something, and it's one thing if I say something and then I can hear it coming over their laptop. That's bad enough. But I'm saying it, then I'm hearing it coming over their laptop while they're answering my question because of the delay. So I've got this constant delay that is out. My voice is walking all over them talking, and their voice is walking over me talking. And you can't separate them out because the sound that I'm hearing is coming from their feed. So it means that this is embarrassing. I'm going to have to answer the door. Excuse me. stream. Can you just leave them out and Joe's going on? Cool, Raj. Cool. Thank you so much. You've got enough cash for that, for the gas and everything? We're doing that?
Yeah, no problem.
Oh, you won. Thanks, James. Sorry about that, everybody. I ordered a not ordered. I purchased 2 old school desks to use in my garage as a work table, a work bench, and they just arrived. The chap from the thrift shop brought them around, and he's left them on the driveway. So that's what that was. Sorry about that. What were we talking about? About the delay. Yeah, it's just normally when I'm doing an interview and 2 people are talking, I have both soundtracks running at the same time, because when I say something, usually you'll pause and listen, and then we swap roles. So I can just balance the sound as we go along. But because of the echo and the delay in this video, every time I'm not talking, my sound has to be off. And every time Steve's not talking, his sound has to be off. And seeing as in some conversations, you're actually trading almost every other word, it gets really complicated. And you'll see, because there's a lot of this I haven't done yet. So where were we? We were
on those field trips,
using pictures again, and I'm getting ready to use some clever video.
or something like that. You don't have much control, but that's when we use umbrellas to shade. Steve would use his hat.
I was able to find, now they're talking about working within the weather. So using stuff at hand to create shade or create light, to get down to the level of the subject. And I found a clip of their latest film, which is one that was filmed in northeast India in the Himalayas, where they were talking about mushrooms and culture, basically. But I found a second copy of it, a second version of it that didn't have subtitles. So what I did was I borrowed that as well off the internet and processed it through a program that I have for this purpose, and repurposed it and cut it up to use as background to this discussion. And this is what I ended up with.
Yeah, when you were in the, I guess you were in China doing the Himalayan video.
That was in northeast India.
India, sorry, yes, of course. You were out in that nature preserve, cataloguing the mushrooms that you found there, and I saw you doing all manner of things to get your camera down to the ground and to get the shade that you needed. It looked like quite a palaver to get to the photograph sometimes. Do you find it physically challenging to spend a day shooting?
I usually end up tired afterwards, but generally speaking, not tired while I'm doing it. I tend to get very focused on the mushrooms, so I don't worry too much. But I know I've commented a lot of times how energetic this photography sport seems to be.
But you know, we're also where we love to be. You know, like for both of us, the passion for this photography came out of our passion for nature and being in the forest. So there's something.
I needed to wrap it up at this point, because we're getting to the end of this part of the discussion, and they're getting ready to answer a question that I ask about how much time they spend in the jungle shooting every day or within a year. And I needed something that was really mushroomy and woodsy to finish this thought up with before we got to them offering to show me their property, their garden. And I had nothing for that. I went onto Google Earth. I know the town that they're in. I was thinking about, you can't use video or footage from things like Google Earth. I couldn't just take pictures of their area because I didn't know enough about it. So I was left with just a gap and not sure what to do to transition from this, which is the very end of the first video, into the whole new set of concepts we were getting ready to discuss. So this is what I came up with, was this view. I've used extreme slow motion to stretch this these next two bits of footage out to fill the whole time and all of the bits of the conversation, and I think it really works.
Energizing.
How many days out of the year are you guys out in nature taking pictures, either for pleasure or for work?
We should turn the camera around and we'll show you where we live.
Okay, do that. Oh my goodness.
And that's where the transition happens, and now we're back to both having video. And I could breathe a sigh of relief because now the default position is to show us talking to one another, and I can do that again because from now till the end I have video. But that stretch that you see there of 3 minutes, it was harrowing to fill with no idea what would fit, and I think all of this fits quite well, and I think it'll look pretty good. And in fact, I'm hoping that nobody will even notice that we weren't on camera at any point during that. There was a question I saw. Final Cut Pro David Brown uses. Yeah, Final Cut Pro is very similar to this. It's a non-linear program. A non-linear program means that you can jump around on the timeline. You can change the timeline, as opposed to linear programs like most of the really basic editing programs. You can only put your chunks of footage in, and that's the way they're going to be. By the way, I'm going to mention this also. I was just talking to a friend in Australia. He's actually in the audience here right now, and he mentioned to me, why was the first interview with Steve and Catherine only 1 minute long? It's not a minute long, it's an hour and something long. And I discovered that in the process of removing a small clip that Catherine wanted removed from the video, somehow it kept that clip as the video and threw the rest of the thing away. Now I believe that I can go in and fix that. If I can't, I'm going to have to re-upload the whole video, but one way or the other tonight before I go to bed, that will be fixed. So if you were wondering, there you go. Okay, so we're into the home stretch now. We've got conversation between us, and most of the first part of it I've already done. I just forged ahead. It's a good conversation, and the hardest part of editing this was simply the sound. And you can see, I'll show you what happens if I don't knock one of our volumes down. So
Oh my
it starts
goodness.
out with me talking about their garden.
That is so gorgeous.
So we're very privileged, we live in nature.
Okay, so that sounds good. Catherine's coming back from showing me the garden. She says that they're very privileged. But this is what happens if my sound was left turned up, if I move the volume bar up. This is what that same clip would sound like.
So we're very privileged, we live
Oh,
in
that is-
nature.
It's got each of us talking twice, and it creates such a distracting echo that it's very hard to concentrate. So what I end up doing is, like I said, keep the non-talker turned off, and then wherever possible, actually excise the bits of my own voice that are coming through that are not being covered by their louder voices because they have a microphone on them. So that's something I had to do in almost every clip. You'll see that I don't put myself on camera very often at all unless I'm asking a question, and I don't in this section.
We're very privileged, you know, we live in nature.
So you can be out photographing.
Well, I clearly should have had that turned on, so let me try that.
So you can be out photographing every day.
We could be, and to an extent, we are.
There's really nothing I can do about Catherine leaning across like that. I don't have any footage to drop in there. I wish I had a picture of their back garden. That would have saved a lot of problems. But in this case, I can't even zoom in on Steve's face. So we're just going to have to roll with it. I could, if I'm smiling or nodding, I guess I could put me in there. That's a possibility. Let's see. When do I need to? About there. So let's try that. Let's just try. All I'm doing is putting cuts where I'm going to change the keyframing. And now what I'll do is I'll slide me up by hitting V to get back to the select tool from the cut tool. And now you'll see what I'm doing here, by the way. I should have explained this. I have one video on top and one video underneath. With video, it is always with the visual tracks, it's always going to be the one on top that is visible. If you change the order, then you change the priority at which they'll be shown. But if that is actually helpful, because I can just leave Catherine and Steve's video at 100% opacity. Their video is always on. So the only time their video is not on is when mine is. And or there's a picture, and that blocks us both out. So I put their video on, and it's the default video. And the only thing that will change that is if I bump up my opacity to show me, which is what I'm going to do here. So
Yeah, photographing every day.
We could be, and to an extent, we are, because, say, if we look at another photograph here, I've got a...
Okay, now we're both working from the same list of photographs, but Steve and Catherine both keep referring to them by number, and all that needs to be cut out. The audience doesn't need to hear me getting instructions about which clip to load. They just need to go on immediately to talking about the mushrooms as if we are really in the same room looking at the same thing, which is the illusion that I'm trying to maintain. So Steve actually leans over and starts looking for the mushroom, and then finds the picture and puts it up and asks if I can see it, and so on. So this is just cutting all of that out.
Another photograph here. I've got a time lapse going, not of this particular spec.
Seeing as I've shown this picture before and I showed it static, I'm doing something very subtle here. I am moving in like 2% enlargement of the mushroom over the... Normally, you set this in your preferences, but normally a picture is up for about 4 seconds. 4 seconds and 29 sixtieths of a second. That's not very long. 4.5 seconds is how long by default the picture will be up. In a situation like this where I'm looking for lots of variety and interest, I'll stretch that picture out a little bit, and then I will cause some animation within the picture to make it more engaging. And movement, very slight enlargement is a cool technique to make a picture that they've already seen look different and interesting. So that's what we're doing here.
Time lapse going, not of this particular similar specimen in our shed. So each day I go down and I check how the time lapse is going. So this keeps me amused.
So we're doing time lapses 24/7, and we've.
I wonder if there's a way for me to get rid of my voice in there. Because of the lag, it's coming in late. Let's listen again.
Time lapse is going. So this keeps me amused.
So we're doing time lapses 24/7.
There's nothing I can do with that. Whatever it is I'm saying in there is coming right between Catherine's words.
We're doing time lapses 24/7, and we've done that for years. So photography is part of our everyday life.
Sounds familiar.
So we're doing it.
Okay, that looks and sounds terrible for two reasons. The first is there is a pause before I say sounds familiar, which is, there wouldn't be a pause. I mean, that's what you would say quietly as they were still talking. I mean, it's kind of a seasoning thing in the conversation. And then there's the first syllable of whatever it is I'm getting ready to say, or the first sound of what I'm getting ready to say is hanging at the end. So front and back of this are terrible.
Sounds familiar.
So they've got to go. Now, when I have a sound, this is an example where having headphones would be good, but with a sound like this, that is all I need to cut out at the end. It's a very tiny blip right there. And normally I would compress everything. Well, I'm going to have to compress everything around it. If I just cut that out by hitting delete, if I was to highlight it, hit V to highlight it, and then hit delete, there would be a weird transition of a, well, it's there, it's actually, I could leave it like that because they're up next. Their video is on next, so that will actually, is there, no, there's a gap. It's going to look like he's jumping up off his chair. So I don't want that. I want this piece gone as well, in which case I can highlight both of those and hit Command Q, which will collapse it all down around it. So that takes care of the end. The beginning is going to be exactly the same. The problem here is that there may be a jump. No, there won't be a jump for me because I'm going from off screen to on. So I'm just going to remove about that much of it. Now, if I'm removing mine, they're not saying anything and they're not on screen right now, so I can remove that video as well. So I hit V, select it all, and Command Q. Now let's see if it's any better.
Sounds familiar.
So we're doing a time lapse of
much better.
Subpurpurea.
Oh my goodness.
Alrighty, so
Subpurpurea.
Oh my goodness. That's another weird one.
Yeah. Where that particular one, we.
all right, that gap is too long. Yep, and the gap. They do look like those chairs that Twiggy used to sit in back in the 1960s, don't they? Terrible looking things. Let's see what we can do to make this a bit smoother.
Doing a time lapse of Philipsia subpurpurea.
Oh my goodness. That's another weird one.
Okay, there's no reason for me to pause in that clause. That's just too long. I mean, you might get away with that in a conversation if that was the tempo of the conversation, but I know that even though Steve is a slow talker, he's not that slow a talker that it makes any sense for me to slow it down even more. So I'm going to Command Q to get rid of that. I can Command Q this because this clip on top will just move along with the gap that's being filled. So it moved a bit more to the right, and I'm going to be able to cut some of this off. We won't need all of this. So let's see what that sounds like.
Subpurpurea.
Oh my goodness. That's another weird one.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's got to come sooner. So I think what I'll do is the easiest way will be to cut me off and to cut that dead air off the beginning of Steve and then just remove this whole block. Like that. Same thing, Command Q. Now let's see if that... I want this to come quicker, and then I need him to start on this right away. And he's not on camera because the funny chairs are. I may bring them back on camera for a second. How long has this been going?
Oh my goodness. That's another weird one.
Yeah.
I think I will actually. Let me see what it looks like when I cut him out. I'm just turning that down for a minute. Yeah, he's smiling. So that would actually be... a smile's very dynamic. I know you don't see me do it very often, but with a smile, it starts at their eyes, it spreads down to their mouth, their face changes, and then their face relaxes again, and the last thing to change back are the eyes. And you can't just cut a piece of a smile out. It's like cutting a piece of a breath out. It just makes it look crazy. The only time that you can cut people out and just leave it the way it is when they're staring at the screen and don't move. Otherwise, you need to cover it up somehow. In this case, there is no way to take this out. But you know, that gap doesn't feel like an interminable gap when we're looking at him smile. We're interested in that. So what I'm going to do is, I'm just going to cut this this clip. What clip, you're saying? What clip? We don't see a clip. Right, my bad. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut this clip right here. If you aren't in this area of the screen, if you haven't clicked in this area, your controls are not active. They're going to be active in whatever of the screens you're on, whether it's your your effects selector panel over here, or the program monitor, or the all of your footage over here. Wherever you are is where the controls will be active. So you'll be over here pressing buttons, wondering why nothing happens, like I just did. So I was going to put a cut here, and then I'll let's see.
Yeah.
I'm just going to actually move this out of the way.
A weird one.
Yeah. Where that particular one,
I'm going to leave that the way it is, and then as he's halfway through his sentence, I'm going to bring it back to the mushroom, but I'm going to fade it in. I like to fade it in if I'm bringing it back in over somebody who's talking. It's more gentle. Though I don't mind the hard cuts if it fits. Let me see if there's any questions. Mike asks the same thing about the 1 minute video. Yes, Mark, it was me. It was an incredibly stupid mistake. I went back in and did an edit in YouTube, and apparently I pressed the wrong button. I edited a 1 minute clip out, and it ended up keeping the 1 minute clip and throwing away the rest of the video. I'm going to upload the full hour video this evening as soon as I get through doing this. So yeah, it was my fault. Just incredible how I missed that. So let me see. David, you could have left a small frame of yourself and we would have assumed it was a regular live stream. I could have done. About what? What were we talking about? Couldn't you slice their video into clip section and put your transitions in and out of each segment? I could, yeah, but you see, the thing is, a system like that is predictable and simple for me to do is predictable and simple for you to watch, and that is not what holds people's interest in video. This is as dynamic a process as creating a photograph that is going to be interesting to somebody. So having things that are surprising, or things that create a little bit of tension that you then are sure to remove later on. The one thing that I think makes a video boring to me is when it is formulaic, in that it always progresses the same way, and I can predict it. So the point you're making is a good one, and certainly I started out doing that a lot more, but I am much more creative with my interviews than I used to be. And in this case, of course, we didn't have the footage, so I couldn't do that. Anyway, let's moving on. So I answered that thing about it was over an hour, Mike, and it will be when it goes back up. If anybody wants to, I could even leave the live stream going and go over to YouTube and show you how I would do that. If anybody, the reason I'm doing this is I'm figuring that there are people out there who watch my channel who also are interested in putting videos up, either to do with macro or something entirely different. And it seems that this is something natural to share with you guys, because I had to teach myself how to do it. So, alrighty. Live stream door knocks. That was a while ago. Absolutely not scripted. Why would I do that anyway? Yeah, it's. I got an order from Amazon today that was for some Christmas presents and from some stuff I needed for picture frame stuff. It had 4 items in the bag. 3 of them were wrong. Just, that is crazy. At Christmas, they do this all the time. 3 things were wrong. Only 1 of them was what I ordered. All right, I'm done complaining. So how much of your time was needed for interview prep, actual interview, and post-processing the video? The interview prep took me an afternoon and an evening of watching most of their work. Not all of it all the way through, but enough to see their style, how they work together, where they did their videos, that type of thing, where they lived. Basically everything I could see from the public area. Then a few emails back and forth with friends of mine who know them to find out any interesting things to add. A little bit of reading. Probably a work day, total prep. The interview went for 2.5 hours. It was scheduled for 1 hour. We talked for half an hour before and half an hour afterwards, and then getting all of the content and everything into the right files afterwards. It's most of an afternoon. So the afternoon part of the workday for me, from like noon till 6 or 8 in the evening. And then the post-processing, because this is fragmented video, is a 3-day per section, so 6 days. And I mean sun up to sundown, and then for 4 hours after the sun goes down. It's a lot of work. So I'm going to move on. I'll come back to the questions in just a sec.
With that particular one,
Okay, that was interesting. I turned the video off at some point. I mean the 60s chair thing off, and forgot to turn it back on. So let's see how that all works together.
Oh my goodness, that's another weird one.
Yeah. With that particular one, someone came up with the name.
All right, that's quite enough of looking at those chairs. So I need to see what comes next. I think I might just put that back to about there.
Name of retro chairs.
Fade that out because he's talking. These rules, by the way, are not. They're not really rules. These are things that I've made up. I haven't even read a book on editing video. My best friend worked until he retired for Adobe, and he was the Premiere Pro expert there. So I guess I did have some help.
Someone came up with the name of retro chairs. the 1960s record.
1960s uncomfortable.
I have not edited from this point on, so this is the where it starts for us, and I am just going to keep going and tell you what I'm doing. All right, so but I know that I haven't edited this yet because both of the videos both of the audio tracks are on full volume or at the correct volume. So let me listen to it.
The 1960s record.
1960s uncomfortable chair that you sit in.
Now, normally I'd cut that out. A 1960s uncomfortable chair that you'd sit in just sounds idiotic, but it got a laugh, and the laugh sounds fantastic. You never want to cut a laugh out, so I'm gonna find a way to put that, leave that in. Maybe if I was to compress this whole thing down a bit. This is me, by the way. This is them. So let's see what they sound like individually. If I mute me,
chairs, the 1960s record. So
1960s uncomfortable chairs.
that's the one.
so you can, you hear the echo of me, and that will all have to come out. But that's, I think, all that is.
Uncomfortable chairs.
Up to here is me. That can go. This is actually me, and let me turn them off for them off for a second and just hear me. Sorry. There we go.
Yeah. 1960s.
Oh, I have a yeah there at the beginning. Maybe I can leave that in so that it sounds like I'm responding to him. So, yeah, and then I can. One good thing about having a fragmented video is I don't really care so long as my audio and video are in sync and their audio and video are in sync with them. I don't really mind about cutting stuff out of sync between us. I'll show you what I mean because it's getting ready to happen. So you can see when I click on my audio, my video lights up. They are linked together. Same with their audio and video. So I know we're good on that. But I want to get this out of my soundtrack without affecting theirs. Or maybe I do need to affect theirs. But let me see what it sounds like when I take at least my piece out. So I'm going to... Okay, it won't let me ripple delete this, that Command Q. So what I'm going to do is just do it manually. So I'll click on it, hit delete, and then I'm going to drag. Now remember, when you go dragging stuff and you can't see the end of your clip, you're going to be affecting stuff all the way down at the end. But this is a long way to go. So there's nothing much I'm going to screw up here. I shouldn't say that, should I? Hang on, let me check and see what's at the end there. Okay. I wonder what this is. This is a piece of video. I wonder if that's from the piece that I didn't have any video for. Maybe I do have video. It's just me yakkering though, so I'll leave that where it is. Okay, where were we? Down here, I was going to cut that clip out. Probably, if any of you guys are familiar with video editing, you're probably freaking out that I have a piece of video this long, and that this isn't in 10 different sections. Normally, these very, very complicated ones, I have to keep them all in the same place because I'm moving footage around so much that I'm afraid I'll lose something otherwise. So yeah, just chill. It'll be okay. So what did I just say I was going to get rid of? A gap in here somewhere. No, up here. So that's what I removed.
Yeah, 1960s uncomfortable chair.
Okay, that's was something you can do if you're moving a section like this to close it. You can slide it over the top of the section next to it if you don't want to stop and clip stuff out, which is what I just did there. So now my video and audio are still in sync, and this is in continuity. So I can put me up here maybe when I say yeah, and I'm going to decrease the volume of that yeah, it's obnoxious. Let me turn their sound on.
Retro chairs, the 1960s
Yeah. 1960s uncomfortable chair that you sit in, right? Yeah, I've seen it.
That actually is going to be about right. If I just cut this piece out, that's me. That's me bleeding through on their laptop. And then I'm not going to collapse that all the way, but I am going to move this, the laugh, to almost when I'm finished talking. That might sound pretty good. Let's try that.
Chairs, the 1960s
Yeah. 1960s uncomfortable chair.
Yeah, if I put a cut there and put me back on screen when I'm saying what they thought was funny, that might work.
Retro chairs, the 1960s
Yeah. 1960s uncomfortable chair that you sit in, right? Yeah, I've seen it.
That's the one.
That works. That works really well, and it's kind of collapsed that whole thing down from a rather uncomfortable, long, gappy kind of exchange to something conversational. And that is the hardest thing with these videos that are in pieces is getting it to sound natural. So let's see what happens now. They're on screen.
They are just.
Okay, so my audio needs to go off while they're laughing.
Right, yeah, I've seen it.
That's the one.
Okay, that's where it needs to go. Now, you can use keyframes like I showed you in the first section. I could put, for example, with V, my move tool on, I could put a keyframe there and a keyframe there and drop my volume down. Now that has advantages in that I'm not throwing away any footage or anything like that, and it keeps everything else intact. And this becomes an editable change that I've made to the audio. But that takes a few more clicks and adds time. And for something like this, I might do this if the change is subtle. For example, if I'm trying to just lower my voice but not get it out of the scene completely, then I would use keyframes, and I would put a Bezier curve on this so that my changes were sudden, and were gradual and smooth, not all of a sudden. But keyframing this kind of blocking off of sound is, I think, a waste of time.
Yeah, I've seen it.
That's the
I stopped talking actually about there, so I can put a cut right there and drop my volume. See, I'm still using the curve, I'm just doing it in sections.
one.
And then there's a gap where nothing happens. Do I need that they are just stunning? What were we even talking about? Oh, the mushrooms that look like chairs. One thing I could do is I could cut they just look stunning and drop it right back in this gap here and fill that silence to keep them on screen looking natural. Let's try that.
That's it, right? Yeah, I've seen them.
That's the one.
They are just stunning.
And that's me echoing. We'll cut that out too. See what I mean? It's like a jigsaw puzzle. I'm going to move all of these back together. Let's see what happens next.
How long will that time lapse take?
Okay, so I'm changing the whole conversation again to how long a time lapse is going to take. So that is fine to put everything right on the end of that talk there. So I don't need that gap. I'll get rid of that. And then, oops, I just erased the entire video to the right of where I am by hitting erase when everything was highlighted. Thank God there's this Command Z, which I don't know. I couldn't do this without that Command Z. It would be too nerve-wracking. All right, so where was I? I was going to remove this dead space by itself, like that.
How long will that time lapse?
Okay, that's all just my echoes. So what we actually need is to hear me talking about that question. And it's time for me to show up briefly.
How long will that time lapse take? I mean, is that a week?
Then Steve goes on to answer it.
That particular one, I would.
Yeah, and that's all Steve there. So I'll leave that down, and I'm going to put his answer closer to the end of my question, like that. So, of course, you can't ripple delete an interior segment of a video when you've got stuff that's dependent on it above and below. You have to do that by hand. You still can do it though. That should now run on more smoothly, but I need to get rid of all of this because that's me. That's echoes of me.
How long will that?
What is that black part of the screen there?
This is stunning. How long?
Okay, that's because their video runs out. Are they on? Yeah, their video runs out and mine is turned off. So I can either... No, there's words there. That's why I took that out. Now I can pull their video back over and then I can cut out that piece of audio, which is, I think, what I'm going to do. So I'll unlink those two pieces and just erase the sound there. I could have keyframed it out too, but that was quicker. So
They are just stunning. How long will that time lapse take? I mean, is that a week?
That particular one, I would say 10 days for completion. Or, 10 days it will still be doing interesting things. They do vary.
No, too long a gap, Steve. I could do several things here. I could bring the chairs back for an encore performance. But I've already had them up twice. I don't think so. I could, yeah, I know what I'll do. I'll just have me smiling. So I'll, let me make sure I am smiling first. I'm sure I'm trying. Nodding's not as good as smiling, but I could always find me smiling somewhere else and move it to there. You know how exhausting it is to have to look, even if you are interested, to have to look interested at all times, because we don't always look interested when we're having a conversation. Sometimes we're just staring, but you can't do that when you're interviewing somebody. You have to be giving them feedback the whole time, and it is exhausting. Okay, I'm going to look at some questions while I'm doing this. All righty. So how much of your time was needed? Well, we talked about that. I've got to go. See you guys next time. See you, Mr. Borderland. I'll see you on Tuesday, which is tomorrow. Thanks, David. I appreciate it. I have no idea how anybody else on the planet edits. I have never seen anybody do it. I don't know if what I'm doing is weird or normal, or I just it's like yeah, I've never even watched a video of people editing. It seems yeah, it seems like it would be boring, but then again, I'm making a video of editing, so who knows. Premiere Pro. Justifying the cost. How did I justify the cost? I mean, this is about the. I mean, as jobs go, this is not a job that you could justify buying tissues if you're doing this. So to buy probably the most expensive video editor, along with Photoshop, Lightroom, Audition, After Effects, InDesign. I use all of these in my business. Absolutely could not live without this Adobe suite of products now, and it just is it's like you can't do this job without a camera either. So you just have to buy a camera. I just had to buy this, and thank goodness one of my supporters, one of my Patreon supporters, actually gave me a subscription to the Adobe suite. As for 3 years in a row, so that's something I'm incredibly grateful for. A lot of people have done stuff like that, and it's why I'm still here making videos. All right, how much is Premiere Pro? It is, I don't know. It's like $100 a month for all the apps, and anybody who's using Premiere Pro is probably using the other apps as well, but I don't know. I honestly don't. Go type Adobe into your computer and it'll be the first thing that comes up. For the longest time I said that the best deal in photography on the planet was Photoshop and Lightroom for $10 a month from Adobe, and I stand by that. I still think that is an obscenely good buy when you think about everything you get with Photoshop. But the rest of it, they get you on. It's expensive. $20.99 a month is for the Creative Cloud thing. Yeah, $54.99. All apps is $54.99, Sam? Are you sure of that? I mean, that sounds too little. Yeah. I don't know. I trust you. I mean, I'm sure it is. That's not too bad then. It's so well worth it. I mean, Premiere is worth that. The question about the times involved was looking at how well your time gets monetized via the YouTube system. You do a lot of work doing this. It certainly can't compare to a surgeon's pay. No, it can't. In that, as a surgeon, I got paid, and you don't get paid for this. I mean, you get table scraps from the people you partner with, like YouTube, and you do their advertising for them, and you make a few pennies. Most of the income that I make, which is tiny compared to the cost of doing this, is just from you guys. It's from donations and from Patreon. Patreon is donations. It's people paying $10 a month or whatever to give me some income. But it's not a thousandth, I guess, of what I used to make. And fortunately, I had some savings that I have put into this. This has been an expensive hobby. At first, it started out that way, but yeah, I'm still putting money into this. I've never made anything from doing it, and I do work 80 to 100 hours a week doing this. But I absolutely love this, and it's exactly what I need and want in my life. So don't feel bad for me. I mean, it's a choice. I don't have to do this. I just love doing this. I'd rather go to bed at night knowing that I helped half a dozen people figure out something in their photography that is going to revolutionize their lives. That is good enough for me. That's what I used to do in surgery too, was make a few people better at a time. And yeah, that's what life's all about. This is a cool way of doing it. And you don't get any money, but money doesn't do much except pay the bills, I guess. All right, enough of that bull stuff. Okay. The section with the tracks being worked with is pretty small. What do you mean, Greg? There's the timeline. Yeah, I can make that as big as I want. Honestly, I focus so much on the few seconds before and after each of my cuts. I'm not. It's not like I'm making a feature film where I'd want to, be able to get to the whole storyline in a click. So I don't really worry about it. But whenever anybody says that, like, boy, you don't have much of your timeline visible, I end up stretching it out and saying, oh yeah, that is a bit easier. You can change the size of every bit of this screen. I mean, depending on what it is you're focused on, what it is that you think's important. And most of us, it's the timeline. Okay, so let's get back to it.
Particular one, I would say 10 days for completion. Or, 10 days it will still be doing interesting things. They do vary.
Okay, that's got to go. Just dead air there. By the way, an old habit, I right-clicked and I can go to ripple delete. That does the same as Command Q. Command Q is the keyboard shortcut. I recommend if you are getting into editing, you learn as many keyboard shortcuts as you can. They save you so much time, seconds at a time. But so let's see if that is an ugly looking jump. No, it's me on screen. What am I doing on screen? I'm not even talking.
That particular one, I would say 10 days for completion. Particular one, I would say 10 days for completion. Or, 10 days it will still be doing interesting things. They do.
I'll put me nodding sagely here. You may wonder why I leave these gaps in when I would never leave them in if I was on screen. Well, I can do that with my delivery. I can't change other people's deliveries any more than I could put a kangaroo's head on instead of their head. There are some things you don't do in an edit, and one of them is like change the cadence of somebody's whole conversation. That would be that would look uncomfortable. I mean, he talks slowly. You get used to it.
They do vary. Say stick.
What am I even saying there? Sometimes I'm to try to ask a question, they keep talking, which is because they're of the delay, and that messes it up too.
And that say stinkhorn.
Yep, so that's pointless. That doesn't do anything.
They do vary. And that say stick.
That is that, and the rest of it fades away. So I can cut me out of that, and I don't need to hear me say that. Let's see what that looks like. And we don't need me in there either, anywhere in there. So let's get rid of that. Let's bring Steve back to finish that sentence. And then I'll decide what to do with me, because I go off screen right here.
Things. They do vary. Say stinkhorns, which the mushrooms.
I don't like that that sudden drop. He's got a sibilant at the end that keeps going.
Say stinkhorn.
No, it's not bad. I think what I'll do is I'll cut this little section out because he ends with an S sound and starts with an S sound. So what I can do is I can make that whole thing one S. I need to see what I'm getting ready to say here.
Say stinkhorns, which you know, mushrooms that smell.
I don't know what I'm saying there. Let's just leave me off and see how that goes.
They do vary. Say stinkhorns, which you know, the mushrooms that smell.
Okay, I think I've got that figured out.
They do vary. Say stinkhorn.
No, I don't need me doing that, trying to put a word in together there. Let me cut it there. That's where he comes in. Let's try that.
Interesting things. They do vary. Say stinkhorns, which you know, the mushrooms that smell.
Okay, good.
They come out of eggs, and they may only take a few hours to come out of the egg. The mushroom itself grows slowly. It might be weeks and weeks and weeks in the egg, and suddenly pops out. But then other mushrooms, I have had some that I've had a camera on them for a month or more. So it's quite variable. You have to get to know the individual mushrooms. You know, so each one is slightly different in what it does, what conditions it needs.
And some are very tricky to time lapse. So.
All right, I'm thinking here. I've got to do something to break up that piece of video. That's just too long with no break. But I don't think we have a stinkhorn picture. In fact, I know we don't. What can I put in there? Well, there's always the me nodding and smiling.
The mushrooms that smell, they come out of egg.
Well, I said yeah there. Let me put me saying yeah. That'll partially break it up.
They do vary. Say stinkhorns, which you know, the mushrooms that smell, they come out of egg.
Let's see.
Corns, which you know, the mushrooms that smell, they come out of eggs.
Okay, I probably shouldn't have messed with this. Now I'm making it into more of a thing than needs to be.
The mushrooms that smell.
Let's get rid of that.
They come out of.
Okay, that'll do for my yup. I have a MacBook Pro, and the problem with the new MacBooks is the touchpad is huge, and I cannot keep the ball of my palm off the right side of the touchpad, and it thinks I'm double clicking when two finger clicking when I'm one finger clicking. So I know you wanted to know that.
They come out of eggs, and they may only take a few hours to come out of the egg.
All right, I'm going to leave that intact the way it is for now.
Individual mushrooms. You know, so each one is slightly different in what it does, what conditions it needs.
And some are very tricky to time lapse. So
well, one thing we could do right here is, as soon as Catherine starts talking, we can change the camera view. And that's easy enough to do. So what I do is I put a cut here and then highlight the video and audio, and I'm going to go over to the effect controls here, and I'm going to increase the scale. In fact, I may zoom in on her. So I'm going to move to the beginning of the timeline here and put a keyframe there. That means I'm starting a clock. And between that keyframe and the next, something is going to happen. So what's going to happen is we'll have another keyframe here that I'll put in by changing the position. Except I moved the timeline back to the beginning where the other keyframe is, because I want to put a keyframe for position too, which is automatic when I hit the stopwatch. That is because the keyframes need to start at the same place so that the changes happen in a coordinated way. All I'm going to do is move the camera in on Catherine, but I'm going to do it gradually. So I will put her at the center, leave her where she is in that axis, and just increase give her her own screen about dead center, and then move her down just a bit like that. Okay, so that is going to be a quick transition from the way the scene opens. It'll cut straight to her, and we'll see how long we leave it there.
Very tricky to time lapse. So the one at 47,
all right, now she's talking about another numbered slide. So let me see where that goes.
Some are very tricky to time lapse. So the one at 47, the Anthropophyllum archeri, beautiful mushroom underneath. So looks like not much on top. It's quite so.
All right, so all I really need to do is just drop the mushroom in here as soon as I find it. 46, I think, was the number. 45, 47. Wouldn't you know it? I don't know if there is a 46 in here. This would be just my luck. Oh, jeez. It is pouring with rain here, guys. I don't see... I don't see a 47. I mean a 46 in here. And I don't know about you, but I did not catch the name of that creature. So, what do you do in a situation like this? What you do is go to the slides that were originally sent to me, open them, and find 46. And then I'll just have to import it separately. I'll show you what I was sent, by the way, was a PowerPoint. Which was a cool way of doing it, I must say. Oh my goodness, I've been using it. I just must have accidentally changed the number. It's what have I called it? 43, 45. Oh, I've got two 45s. Who noticed that already and just decided not to tell me because it would be fun to watch me flounder? That's all it was. It was my bad. Sorry, guys. It's already been a long day. Let's stretch that out too. Let's also get it in frame. So I'm clicking on it. It's now active, which means its properties show up here. And the thing I need to change is the scale because it's too big. And fortunately, it's the right shape for a 16 by 9 seen. So I'm going to leave that just sitting there like that till I hear what Catherine says about it.
And some are very tricky to time lapse. So the one at 47,
Oh, 47. Why did nobody tell me that? 47 is beautiful mushroom though. Let's get rid of her saying 47. That is so crazy, the shapes of mushrooms they have over there. We're going to cut out everything before she says the name of the mushroom.
time lapse. So the one at 47, the anthrocophyllum,
The one,
very tricky to time lapse.
so, and then the name, the anthraco, whatever. That will sound okay. So let's see what that sounds like. And we'll get rid of all of that number stuff.
And some are very tricky to time lapse. So the anthrocophyllum archeri.
And as you're thinking, he needs to move that visual back. Hey, did you notice, by the way, that stuff is not clicking in the timeline like it was? I don't know why this sometimes turns itself off, but the snap in timeline button is this magnet. As long as that's clicked on, things like this will click to a stop when they get to where they think you're going, which is fine if that's where you are actually going. But let's hear what it sounds like now.
And some are very tricky to time lapse. So the anthrocophyllum archeri, beautiful mushroom underneath. So it looks.
I'm going to put my ooh wow in here, but at very low volume, just so that it sounds like I'm still here. That should be pretty quiet.
The anthrocophyllum archeri, beautiful mushroom underneath. So it looks like not much on top. It's quite so make.
Not much. Let's try this.
Archeri, beautiful mushroom underneath. So it looks.
Okay, this is just wow echo
Underneath. So
here. Let's get rid of that. This is one where I think I am going to use actually keyframes, because I can't be exactly sure where my cut needs to be. So I'm going to be able to move it. Let's listen.
underneath.
Okay. Then I'll need another one to bring it back up. I think this is Catherine next. Yeah.
Looks like not much on top. It's quite. So maybe you need to turn up some of your Alabama mushrooms, actually, Allan, because this is one that looks just like a
All right.
archeri, beautiful mushroom underneath. So it looks like not much on top. It's quite. So maybe you need to turn up.
That actually all sounds pretty good, just with that little piece cleaned out. The rest of it seems to work.
So it looks like not much on top. It's quite. So maybe you need to turn up some of your.
I think there's some me talking in there.
So maybe you need to turn up.
Yeah, but I can't get in here and get that out without getting Catherine chopped up here.
So maybe you need to turn up some of your Alabama mushrooms, actually, Allan, because this is one that looks just.
Earlier on in the discussion, I was arguing vociferously that we don't have pretty mushrooms in Alabama. We don't. We have mushrooms in Alabama, sure, but they're not red and look like a dissected kidney like that thing does. So I was going to put my laugh in here. You want, if somebody is making a self-referential joke, and to you as the interviewer, and you know, it's funny, or meant, even if it's meant to be funny and it's not funny, you need to put your laugh in there, otherwise they'll be insulted.
Actually, Alan,
This is the
one
underneath.
that's just like
Oh, I wasn't laughing, I was asking a question. I was asking if this was the underneath of this mushroom.
actually, Alan.
This is the
one
underneath.
that's
All right, well, this is a mess in here.
actually, Alan.
This is the
actually, Alan.
This is the
one
underneath.
that's just like a
She keeps talking. What we could do is get rid of my "this is the underneath."
This is the underneath.
That's where I stop, is right there. And then we're hearing Catherine's echo here. So if I cut this and then immediately pull her echo out,
actually, Alan.
This is the
one
underneath.
that's just like a
that makes everything a bit more legible.
The underneath.
Actually, I think the underneath stops there. So
actually, Alan.
This is the
one
underneath.
that looks just like a
okay, let me see if I can hear what she's saying right here.
mushrooms, actually, Alan, because this is one that looks just like a boring brown mushroom.
Can't get rid of any of that. And there's really none of me coming through there.
Mushrooms, actually, Alan, because this is one that looks just like a boring brown.
Okay, what I can do is I can leave her on screen for one thing and increase the volume of this part of the clip. I'll do it with keyframes, actually. I'm hitting V to get back to my selection tool, and I think what I'll do is I'll put a keyframe here and one at the end of this part of the thought, then one inside of it like that, and then just lift the middle segment just a bit. That'll give some punch when she's saying that and there's that noise in the background.
Mushroom on the top, you turn it over and this is what's underneath. But because
it's very subtle, but I think it effectively lifts her and puts what she's saying in the front of the video for a second, and that's good. And then I can fill in this gap with, I think I'm getting ready to say something, hang on. Oh, I'm muted. That's why that sounded so much better. Let's try it again.
mushroom on the top, you turn it over and this is what's underneath. But because
that's the echo of "this is the bottom" right there. That needs to go. In fact, that whole thing can go like that.
But because, yeah, but
No, I can't do that. And because she's answering me. Hang on.
but of course this is the bottom underneath. But because, yeah, but of course this is the bottom is what you want a time lapse.
That can be.
But because, yeah, but of course this is the bottom is what you want a
Yeah, but because the bottom is what you want to time lapse,
the bottom is what you
I can just make that the entire sentence and remove my interjection from there completely.
but because
Which means I can get rid of me bleeding through there as well. Let's see what that looks and sounds like. And then I can use a little bit of me as a break so that her face doesn't jump. Like this.
but because the bottom is what you want a time lapse. But because the bottom is
I'm saying something there.
bottom, because the bottom,
I don't know if this is going to work. Let's see what that just sounds like.
but because the bottom is what you want a time lapse, but because it,
Maybe I didn't need that because the bottom is what you want to time lapse.
turn it over and this is what's underneath. But because the bottom is what,
Now, I could have saved myself, I think, a lot of messing around here. One thing I've got to be very careful about is that I don't change anything that anybody is going to say. I mean, in terms of change the facts of what they're saying. I can't do that. Would never want to do that.
and this is what's underneath. The bottom is what you want a time lapse, but
That's
because
much
it breaks
better.
down, it's very, very tricky and very temperamental to time lapse. You know, if you move it off the ground, you know, it loves being so close to the humid ground. So if you lift it up and there's more air around it, you know, so many times we've tried it and it's just ended up shriveling up.
Yeah, and then if you do get it moist enough, you've got a camera underneath it pointing.
Okay, obviously I need to rethink the screen, and probably earlier than that. Where did I make the transition? Back here.
And some are very tricky to time lapse. So the anthrocophilum archeri.
Okay, obviously I need to pull back to the couple here, and I don't think I need those flowers up, those mushrooms up there this long. They're also too big. I never resized the image. So let me resize the image and let me chop it up somewhere to split it up, because she's talking about it all the way out to here.
Conditions it needs.
And some are very tricky to time lapse. So the anthrocophilum archeri.
Before I forget, let's break this picture about here. Move a bit of it over here, and let's make sure that Catherine's video is back to normal. So, by the way, use the arrows to move one frame at a time, so you can click through your frames. Let's get back off just Catherine now our keyframes are still lit because we're still in the same sequence. We can probably turn them off. It'll always check and ask, are you sure you want to turn these off? We're now, by the way, that is only going to affect the keyframes in the highlighted part of the timeline. It's not going to affect keyframes elsewhere. So the keyframes we put in earlier, like these ones, they're still there. There is a way, by the way, that you may from time to time make some fairly complicated edits, say, to the sound in a particular frame, a particular sequence. And you want to copy those effects, either visual or audio effects. You can actually highlight the clip, right click on it and hit copy, and then you can, what you have done is you've copied the clip, yes, but you've also copied the attributes in the clip. So I could go to the next clip, highlight it, right click on it, and hit paste attributes, and that will move not the clip but just the changes you made to the other clip and apply them to the new clip. This is one of the biggest time savers when you're in a complicated edit, when you're making a lot of picky changes that you otherwise wouldn't remember. So I just thought I'd mention that. So we're getting back to the couple. So we're going to have to drop the size and then put the frame back in the middle and get the y-axis right, and then a little bit more size and we should fill it. Fine. Okay, we're back to normal now. So we go from Catherine's face to the mushroom.
Beautiful mushroom underneath. So it looks like not much on top. It's quite. So maybe you need to turn up some of your Alabama mushrooms, actually, Alan.
This is the
one
underneath.
that looks just like a boring brown mushroom on the top. You turn it over, and this is what's underneath. The bottom is what you want to time lapse, but because it grows down, it's very, very tricky and very temperamental.
Okay, now you see what happened here is I made the change to one segment, but I had already applied the change in position, putting Catherine at the center of the screen for the entire sequence, and their video sequence is all the way to the end of the video. So I need to change that for the rest of the video, or we're always going to be changing that. And this is when the paste attributes would work. So that's the way it is now, but if I hit copy from the section I already fixed, and of course the shortcut is Command C, I can then highlight this and right click and go to paste attributes. And then it'll ask me which ones. The only ones that I don't want to do anything with the audio, though the basic attributes are the same, the audio level's the same, as is the sound, because I've got a preset that I used for their sound. Really it's mostly the fact that I have changed the luminance of their entire clip. I bumped the exposure up because it was a bit dark, and the opacity was what was the other thing I changed? Can't remember what it was I changed. It was the motion. So that's obviously the thing that we need to copy. Okay, so that should now fix it. So we're back to normal.
It's very, very tricky and very temperamental to time lapse. You know, if you move it off the ground, you know, it loves being so close to the humid ground. So if you lift it up and there's more air.
All right, now maybe the thing to do is wait for me to smile or something. I'm about to say something quick there, but I think we need a relief to the scene. Not that I make much relief,
and
but
there's more air around it. You know, so many times we've tried it and it's just ended up shriveling up.
Yeah, and then if you do get it moist enough, you've got a camera underneath it pointing up. It's a little too moist for the camera.
Yeah. And so that.
I say understood, but I don't see where. It must be here. Let me.
It's one of those, you know,
Understood.
we're pretty chuffed at the moment because
how many-
3 days that it's been time lapse is actually great.
Okay, I'm not good at interrupting people.
It's a little too moist for the camera.
Yeah.
I'm going to do my understood while he's still laughing. So I'm going to put a cut where it's going to go, put a cut at the beginning of my understood, then one at the end. I'm going to remove that middle section. Slide my understood right under his laugh. Drop my sound there because I don't need it, and then drop my sound immediately here so that I don't step over Catherine with my next question. Do I want my yeah, I'm gonna put this a little further up so that I can react to her here, and I think that'll be good. So I'll bump my picture up and let's see how that looks.
Camera underneath it pointing up. It's a little too moist for the camera.
Yeah.
Understood.
And so that for lip.
Yeah, the last thing I want is to see me lip syncing to myself. So this needs to go. And I need to be seen saying understood. And then we can go right back to them. So that should be better. Let's,
If you do get it moist enough, you've got a camera underneath it pointing up. It's a little too moist for the camera.
Yeah.
Understood.
And so that Philipsia is one of those. You know, we're pretty chuffed at the moment because the 3 days that it's been time-lapsing, it's actually growing. And
alrighty, let me... We're still talking about this thing, aren't we? If you hit Option on a Mac and click on something, it makes a copy of it. But you have to let go of the moving finger first before you let go of the Option key. If you let go of the Option key first, it'll disappear. So that's how you copy a clip, and it works for any clip. So
A little too moist for the camera.
yeah.
Understood.
And so that Philipsia is one of those.
I'm not going to be able to get rid of me talking in the background there. One thing I could do if I really wanted to would be to put a cut here and say here and highlight her soundtrack, go over to the audio. There are several ways you can do this, but Essential Sound is the easiest way to access most of the effects tools. And just go into the repair section and hit the reduce noise, and that might take most of my voice out.
And so that Philipsia is one of those.
No.
We're pretty chuffed at the moment because the...
It recognizes it as a voice, so it's going to preserve it. Let's try turn that up.
And so that Philipsia is one of those. You know, we're pretty chuffed at the moment because the 3 days that it's been time-lapsing, it's actually growing, and we've had a lot of trouble time-lapsing that species.
How many cameras?
I think that'll probably do. There's something weird in here too. Let me figure it out.
It's a little too moist for the camera.
Yeah.
Understood.
Oh, it's just my echo. Underneath, it's hidden underneath the channel marker. I didn't see that. Okay, we'll just have Catherine stomp on my next word. That'll sound good. Command Q to collapse it down. Let's try that.
For the camera.
Yeah.
Understood.
And so that Philipsia is one of those. You know, we're pretty chuffed at the moment because
Good.
the 3 days that it's been time-lapsing, it's actually growing, and we've had a lot of trouble time-lapsing that species.
Okay, then I start talking again. So let me just cut this section out. I'm not doing anything anywhere here. You know, I'm reluctant to chop up too much because you never know when you're going to need it again. You can always get it back, but I think I'll be more comfortable just taking out a small section for now, and then I can just move this back because I'm coming right on the tail of that with a question. So my volume goes up. Catherine's comes down. And I come on screen like that.
Time-lapsing that species.
How many cameras will you have running at a time with all of your time lapses going on?
Okay, pretty straightforward. As soon as I get through talking, my microphone goes off again. I can go off camera. And we just need to see where Steve starts talking. I think it's right here.
Currently there's 4.
lapse is going on.
Yep, okay, that's easy enough to do. So this is the closest thing to a regular little section of editing that you'll see in this video. So that's the whole edit finished there.
How many cameras will you have running at a time with all of your time lapses going on?
Currently, there's
No, I don't know how I left that in there.
And lapses going on.
Okay, my going on is this is all turned off, so there's no sound. We just need this section gone. There's no reason for any of that to stay in there. I'm not on screen there, and there's no sound coming from me there, so that can all go. But I don't know what that is or why I left it, so let me just try it like this first.
With all of your time lapses going on.
currently there's 4.
Sometimes we've had up to 7.
Where's my wow? Gosh, see how the timelines are drifting apart. Part of that's me moving stuff, but also they do. I think they recorded a different frame rate or something as well.
There's 4.
Sometimes we've had up to 7. I think we've 8 we had allocated to time lapse.
I don't know that my oh wow does anything in there really. It might be better to just, well, you know what? Yeah, I'll leave it in, but I'm going to move it.
I don't know that we've ever actually had 8
Does-
runs.
No, I don't think.
Oh, that's not my oh wow. That must be down here somewhere.
Currently there's 4.
Oh,
Sometimes we've had up to 7.
wow.
Oh, it's right there. It was in the right place all along. So I might bump it up a bit because I didn't hear it very well. Let's try that.
Currently there's 4.
Sometimes we've had up to
Oh,
7.
wow.
Okay. Ah, it's the echo effect. And then that slapping noise is somebody dropping something, probably me. Yeah. Let's see what I'm dropping. Just
I think we've 8.
no. Could have been the mailman again knocking on the door. Okay, let me cut that out. None of that needs to be in there. Doesn't need to be on their soundtrack or mine. This is my oh wow. And then Catherine starts whispering here. Do we need any of that?
We had allocated to time lapse. I don't know that we've ever actually had 8 runs.
Does-
No, I don't think so, because cameras gradually die as well. You leave them in mushroom sheds for years, literally years, and
Okay, I definitely don't want to cut any of that. That's cool.
I think we've 8. Had up to 7.
Oh, wow.
I think we've 8.
Okay, now I know what I'm going to do. I'll just cut this piece. Get rid of that noise and the echo of the oh wow.
Sometimes we've had up to
Oh,
7.
wow.
I think we've 8 we had allocated to time lapse. I don't know that we've ever actually had 8 runs.
Does-
no, I don't think so.
This is me trying to get another question in. Do I ever?
Because cameras gradually die as well. You leave them in mushroom sheds for years, literally years, and
No, I think I gave up on it.
How long?
There we go. So, as you're, whoops, that was very interesting. If you don't grab the volume line, it's possible to accidentally drag the whole clip off the screen and or drag it on top of another one. It's even worse. All right, so this is a non-question. Let's see how, if their sound goes all the way through without any problems, I'm just going to leave it.
With 8 we had allocated to time lapse. I don't know that we've ever actually had 8 running.
No, I don't think so, because camera.
Let's get rid of that echo of my question.
I think so, because camera.
We'll get rid of the because with it, because I'm not sure that maybe you can take mine out alone.
No, I don't think so, because
Yeah, we can. I think his because starts up here, because that is usually starts high, but let's check.
because
No, it turns it into cause, but that's a contraction of because anyway. Let's try this. Okay.
I don't think so, because cameras gradually die as well. You leave them in mushroom sheds for years, literally years, and
How long does a camera last if it's spending its entire life in a moist, dark mushroom shed?
Okay. We're gonna get rid of everything except Catherine's laugh from their track. So I'm just gonna drop the volume to nothing. I'm talking all the way down here. I'll go on screen.
How long does a camera last if it's spending its entire life in a moist, dark?
Let me see. I want that first giggle in there.
Moist, dark, mushroom.
Oops, timing's off. I was editing to her echo, not to her actual laugh. So where does her echo happen?
Moist, dark.
I think it is this.
Moist, dark, mushroom. Dark, mushroom.
Is this nothing?
Dark, mushroom.
I'm trying to decide where to put the laugh. Let's see what that sounds like.
Its entire life in a moist, dark mushroom shed.
I'm just going to get rid of that. Because I'm still on screen, so you won't notice there's anything missing there, but that should take out the first part of that laugh.
Spending its entire life in a moist, dark mushroom shed.
I don't like this. I'm going to have to figure out how to make that smoother.
In a moist, dark.
It's all down to where my dark starts, and I think it's halfway through this. Okay, that's her laugh. Okay, I think I'll just cut this out. In fact, I'll cut the whole thing out. Let's try that.
Moist, dark mushroom shed.
That'll do. That'll do. Mushroom shed ends there, or does it end here? Yep. So we'll turn me down. I'll put, this must be an echo of me. Yeah, it is. So I'll leave that where it is, and I'm going to take Steve where he starts talking again and move it pretty much in line with his echo, and then move his volume up, that volume down. Let's see what that sounds like.
Oh, mushroom shed.
Depends on the. I just had a.
All right, what's missing from there? I don't like having my my timeline too compressed. I mean, too spread out to where I'm just looking at a tiny fraction of the conversation. It's very discombobulating. You're not sure which way is up. I like to have more of the timeline visible. Let me say one thing real quick. It's 7 o'clock. I am going to continue editing until this thing is done. I know that there are only half a dozen of you, and I need to answer some questions, which I'm going to do in just a second. But I don't feel like you need to sit around and watch this. I'm really doing this so that it's there on the channel if anybody wants to use it as a reference down the road. I know that this has got to be just crushingly boring if you're not doing this all the time. But let me answer some questions. Let me see. I'm not sure what these things, these weird messages are at the bottom here. I don't know how to get rid of them. Oh, you reported it as spam. But you guys are so cool. Yeah, that's what I had to do. Is that what I do every time one of those shows up? Because I get them in my messages all the time, and I've called them and talked to them. They're very nice, but no, I haven't. I'm kidding. I haven't. All right, let me get back to work here. If you're wondering how much, well, let me show you what we're up to. If you're wondering how much is left to do, like I am, it's okay, it's a lot. It's this. This is their sound. This is their video. Yeah. The reason mine is not continuous is my video is in sections, so I'll drop them in as I need them as we go. This is a lot of editing. This will be through the night. So you know what I'll do is I'll go another half hour. Because I don't know what comes up next. I'll go another half hour, then we'll call it quits for today, and then I'll do a number 3 where we'll wrap it up at the end for anybody who's interested, because nobody's going to watch a video this long anyway. So let me jump back in and see if maybe I can get to the end here in half an hour. That would be a record, but let's see. I'm going to talk less and work more.
I just had it was an old Canon camera. I used to use Canon before Sony, but it was the 1DS Mark III, I think.
Just trying to change things up. I am going to give Steve center stage for a minute because he's talking about cameras, so people will probably look up at the screen about now if they were asleep. There's nothing like calling out the name of a new camera to get people's attention. Let's see.
Depends on the. I just had it was an old Canon camera. I used to use Canon before Sony, but it was the 1DS Mark III, I think.
I think I've got a picture of one of those. Should I drop a picture of an old camera in? No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I think it's finally given up the ghost, and I look at it and say, well, it's going to...
Yeah.
Yeah, we don't need that in there. What? Here's a trick. When you cut out a piece that is in the middle of somebody's soliloquy, if I'm interrupting him talking by cutting out a noise that I make like this, it is a wonderful time, and you should never miss the opportunity to switch cameras at that same moment, because that way you hide it. You hide the fact you made a change.
1DS Mark III, I think. I think it's finally given up. I think it's finally given up.
Boy, I don't look very interested, do I? I was.
The ghost, and I look at it and say, well, it's going to cost more to repair than to buy the equivalent now. But that's been going for, I think now. But that's been going for...
I'm just going to chop that whole piece out. It doesn't add anything, and if need be, I can come back on screen. Let's see what it looks like with the
equivalent now. That's been going for, I think
that actually doesn't look too bad.
That's been going for, I think
it's relatively unnoticeable. I could put me in there if I'm smiling. Let's just see. I am smiling, so we'll use me there.
The equivalent now. That's been going for, I think I got it originally in about 2008.
Yeah, so it's done pretty well.
That is the lag. It's terrible. It's it really makes the edit tricky. But I guess I'm getting used to it by this point.
2008.
I would.
Yeah, so it's done pretty well.
But that's
Yeah,
a
that's
pro
done pretty
camera, so
well.
it's all weather sealed. Is that what you use in the fungus sheds?
I think I'm just gonna let the over the top voices stay. Or let me try dropping that volume.
I would.
Yeah, so it's done pretty well.
That is an echo of.
But that's
Yeah,
a pro
done pretty
camera, so
well.
it's
Yeah, that's an echo of Catherine, so I can get rid of that.
I would.
Yeah, so it's done pretty well.
She starts right there. Let me try just interrupting that thought of mine to dump this volume, which means this is just dead time. We can get rid of that. This must be an echo of me. It is. We can get rid of that. Sometimes what you have to do is get rid of the stuff you need to get rid of and then figure out how to put together the rest. So this can go, which has this, me talking again.
Yeah.
So I'll put my volume back up, and it's up there, and I don't think we need that. And I don't think we need this.
2008.
I would.
Let me see where.
That's a
That's
pro
done pretty
camera.
Hmm.
That's
Yeah,
a
that's
pro
done pretty
camera, so
well.
Okay. Here's what I'm thinking. I need to get when it's done very well, or whoever's done very well here. We need to be back out on Catherine to hear her comment, for one thing, and then Okay, so we'll get Catherine back up here so we can make sense of the words. And I'm talking here, let's just get rid of this section altogether. The only question is, do I need to move myself here?
But that's a pro camera, so it's all weather sealed.
Nope, I think what I'm going to do is get rid of all of this and then move Catherine to there and then leave me picking up here. So it does get a little bit three-dimensional here. Let's try that.
Originally in about 2008.
I would.
Yeah, so it's done pretty well.
But that's a pro camera, so it's all.
Okay, I don't know why I left that in.
I would.
Yeah, so it's done pretty well.
Don't even know what I'm talking about.
2008.
Yeah, so it's done pretty well.
But that's a pro.
2008.
Yeah, so it's done pretty well.
But that.
Yeah, so it's done pretty well.
Ah,
It's done pretty well.
But that's a pro camera, so it's all weather sealed. Is that what you use in the fungus sheds?
not liking this section. It might be time to bring in a photograph.
But that's a pro camera, so it's all weather sealed. Is that what you use in the fungus sheds?
Alrighty, let's give them their mic back about here. And kill mine.
It's all weather sealed. Is that what you use in those
Mushroom sheds.
fungus sheds?
Well,
Alrighty, I'm getting tired.
we don't because you don't. Some of them are.
Okay. Focus, Alan, focus.
The fungus sheds?
Well, we.
You know, you do this long enough, for enough hours at a time, and you just go from being focused and hearing every nuance to being completely saturated and not hearing any of it.
Fungus sheds?
Well,
So I'm at that point that
In the
I don't know
fungus
what
sheds?
sounds.
well, we don't because you don't. Some of them are. Well, they're all meant to be weather sealed, but they're not pro cameras.
Right.
I don't know. I don't know what I'm going to do about this section. It's not the most scintillating series of exchanges in the thing. This may be one that the best thing for me to do is give it a pause. Maybe go get my desks in from the rain. That's a great thought to have 2 hours after the rain starts. I am going to do that. It's 7:30. We're going to call it quits for today, and I'll do a little bit of this tonight, and then I'll come on and I'll wrap it up. And in the last section, what we're going to do is I'll wrap up the edit, and I think there'll be some fun stuff at the end. And then what I'll do is I will show you how to set up all of the settings in Premiere Pro to export audio and video for YouTube. And then as an added treat, I'll show you how you upload media to YouTube, all the steps. I mean, it's easy, but I'll show you how you do that. So at the end of this, you'll have everything you need to make a video of your own and put it on YouTube, basically. So we'll do that when I come back, and it might be, it won't be tomorrow because I've got a live stream tomorrow. So it'll probably be on Wednesday. I'll try to do it between now and Christmas. Got to do my Christmas shopping at some point. Don't let me forget that. You're responsible for reminding me that. Okay, I am going to call it there. Thank you everybody for coming. I know it was just a few, and I know it was a short notice and everything. This is part of an experiment. I wanted to see if I did this, if anybody at all would show up. I don't even know who's notified. So yeah, experiment in progress. I'll see you guys in a day or two, or no, I'll see you guys tomorrow, 8:00 p.m. I've got some stuff I want to talk about, but I can't remember what it is right now. I'll see you tomorrow. Take care. Good night.